The California Trail was an emigrant trail of about 2,000 miles across the western half of the North American continent from Missouri River towns to what is now the state of California. After it was established, the first half of the California Trail followed the same corridor of networked river valley trails as the Oregon Trail and the Mormon Trail, namely the valleys of the Platte, North Platte and Sweetwater Rivers to Wyoming. In the present states of Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah, the California and Oregon trails split into several different trails or cutoffs. History. By 1847, two former fur trading frontier forts marked trailheads for major alternative routes in Utah and Wyoming to northern California. The first was Jim Bridges' Fort Bridger in present-day Wyoming on the Green River, where the Mormon Trail turned southwest over the Wasatch Mountains to the newly established Salt Lake City, Utah. From Salt Lake, the Salt Lake Cutoff went north and west of the Great Salt Lake and rejoined the California Trail in the city of Rocks in present-day Idaho. The main Oregon and California trails crossed the Green River on several different ferries and trails that led to a bypassed Fort Bridger and then crossed over a range of hills to the Great Basin drainage of the Bear River, just past present-day Soda Springs, Idaho. Both trails initially turned northwest following the Port Neuf River Valley to the British Hudson's Bay Company's Fort Hall on the Snake River in present-day Idaho. From Fort Hall, the Oregon and California trails went about 50 miles southwest along the Snake River Valley to another parting of the Ways Trail junction at the junction of the Raft and Snake River. The California Trail from the junction followed the Raft River to the city of Rocks in Idaho near the present Nevada-Idaho-Utah trip point. The Salt Lake and Fort Hall routes were about the same length, about 190 miles. From the city of Rocks, the trail went into the present state of Utah following the South Fork of the Junction Creek. Further, the trail followed along a series of small streams like Thousand Springs Creek in the present state of Nevada till they got to near present-day Wells, Nevada, where they met the Humboldt River. By following the crooked, meandering Humboldt River Valley west across the arid Great Basin, emigrants were able to get the water, grass, and wood needed by all travelers and the teams. The water turned increasingly alkaline as they progressed down the Humboldt. There were almost no trees, so firewood usually consisted of broken brush and the grass was sparse and dried out. Few liked the Humboldt River Valley passage. Humboldt is not good for man nor beast. And there is not timber enough in 300 miles of its desolate valley to make a snuff box, or sufficient vegetation along its banks to shade a rabbit, while its waters contain the alkali to make soap for a nation. At the end of the Humboldt River, where it disappeared into the alkaline Humboldt Sink, they had to cross the deadly 40-mile desert before finding either the Truckee River or Carson River, the Carson Range and Sierra Nevada mountains that were the last major obstacles before entering northern California. An alternative route across the present states of Utah and Nevada that bypassed both Fort Hall and the Humboldt River trails was developed in 1859. This route, the Central Overland route, which was about 280 miles shorter and over 10 days quicker, went south of the Great Salt Lake and across the middle of present-day Utah and Nevada, through a series of springs and small streams. The route went south from Salt Lake City across the Jordan River to Fairfield, Utah, then west-southwest past Fish Springs National Wildlife Refuge, Kilgore, Utah, Abapa, Utah, to Ely, Nevada, then across Nevada to Carson City, Nevada. In addition to immigrants, after 1859, the Pony Express, Overland stages and the first transcontinental telegraph all followed this route with minor deviations, once in western Nevada and eastern California. The pioneers worked out several paths over the rugged Carson Range and Sierra Nevada mountains into the goldfields, settlements and cities of Northern California, the main routes initially being the Truckee Trail to the Sacramento Valley and after about 1849 the Carson Trail route to the American River and the Placerville, California gold-digging region. Starting about 1859 the Johnson Cutoff and the Hennis Pass route across the Sierras were greatly improved and developed as the main roads across the Sierras. Both were toll roads to pay for maintenance and upkeep on the roads. These toll roads were also used to carry cargo west to east from California to Nevada as thousands of tons of supplies were needed by the gold and silver miners, etc., working on the Comstock Lode near the present Virginia City, Nevada. The Johnson Cutoff, from Placerville to Carson City along today's U.S. Route 50 in California, was used by the Pony Express year-round and in the summer by the stage lines since it was the only overland route from the east to California that could be kept partially open for at least horse traffic in the winter. The California Trail was heavily used from 1845 to 1869 when several rugged wagon routes across the Carson Range and Sierra Nevada mountains to different parts of Northern California were established. After about 1848 the most popular route was the Carson route, which, while rugged, was still easier than most others and entered California in the middle of the goldfields. The trail was heavily used in the summers until the completion of the first transcontinental railroad by the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads in 1869. Trail traffic then rapidly fell off as the cross-country trip was much quicker and easier by train, about 7 days. The economy class fare across the western United States of about $69 was affordable by most California-bound travelers. The trail was used by about 2,700 settlers from 1846 up to 1849. These settlers were instrumental in helping convert California to U.S. possession as volunteer members of John C. Fremont's California Battalion assisted the Pacific Squadron sailors and Marines in 1846 and 1847 in conquering California in the Mexican-American War. After the discovery of gold in January 1848, word spread about the California gold rush. Starting in late 1848 till 1869, over 250,000 businessmen, farmers, pioneers and miners passed over the California Trail to California. The traffic was so heavy that in 2 years these settlers, combined with those coming by wagon from Salt Lake City to Los Angeles, California in winter, the travelers down the Gila River Trail in Arizona and those traveling by sea routes around Cape Horn and the Magellan Strait by sea and then across the Isthmus of Panama, Nicaragua, Mexico and then by sea to California, had expanded California's population enough by 1850 to make it eligible to become the 31st state. Roughly half of California's settlers came by trail and the other half by sea. The original route had many branches and cut-offs, encompassing about 5,500 miles in total. About 1,000 miles of the rutted traces of these trails remain in Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Nevada and California as historical evidence of the great mass migration westward. Portions of the trail are now preserved by the Bureau of Land Management and the National Park Service as the California National Historic Trail and marked by BLM, NPS and the many state organizations of the Oregon-California Trails Association. Maps put out by the United States Geological Survey show the network of rivers followed to get to California.